Hey guys, what's up? So I'm gonna make this video about Heartland. I'm actually remaking this video. Um, uh, so Heartland has been a pretty good company for me so far. Um, I have consistently done 2,800 or more miles a week. I have consistent good interactions with my dispatcher and the night staff. Um, the environment here is very relaxed. They don't really bother you unless you bother them. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna sit here and call you 16 times a day or even 3 times a day. Hell, they're probably not gonna call you at all unless you call them. The dispatchers I've dealt with prefer to use the messaging either on the phone or on the tablet. I think the hardest part about working at Heartland is like if you've been in the industry for a while, going from like a Qualcomm Omnitrax to or a Samsara even to the Isaac tablet, a lot of the way things are done are very different than normal. So it took me a minute to get used to. It still does. Hell, I fucked up my 34 today because I forgot about the personal conveyance thing on here and how it's different. So that happened. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I'm still going to be able to do my load on recaps. So I'll figure that out. But um, I think their insurance is really good. So they have a like a $42 plan and a $52 plan if you're a solo driver that doesn't smoke. Um, those that are really good. They're PPOs, so they're very good. And they cover a lot. And then they've got all the other insurances that are normal, plus the option to buy extra life and AD&D insurance. Plus, they've got short-term, long-term disability, which not everybody does. They've got uh, accident insurance. If you hurt yourself, you get paid cash. They've got critical illness, like a cash payment for cancer diagnosis type deal. Um, or amputations or whatever. They've got all of that. Um, and it's really, I mean, I've got really decent versions of everything. With, I mean, the only thing that I didn't max out was my short-term disability, and I'm only going to be paying about $76 a week, which is not bad for all that, considering some other insurance plans are $82 a week just for the health insurance at some companies. So that's really good, actually. Um, they're a very easy company to work with, uh, especially if you're 48 state over the road. They don't have the highest per mile rate, but it's decent enough. I mean, they're very competitive with what the West Coast pays. So if you're on the West Coast, Heartland Express actually pays really well for what those companies out there pay. The East Coast typically will pay a lot more, but they're not going to be able to get you home out west or even as far as Texas. Like a lot of the companies that I've worked for were on the East Coast and they'd pay 60 or 65 or some of them are even paying 70 cent a mile now, but you're doing short 300-mile runs every day and you're not doing too many miles every week. But with Heartland, I'm getting 57 or 58. And then if you get hazmat, it's an additional 1 cent per mile and there's raises every so often, and a bonus 5 cent per mile when you drive in the Northeast, which they call the green zone. There is uh, what they call Heartland Cares pay. So their layover pay is 125, which is really good actually as far as the industry is concerned. Their detention pay is $16 an hour after 1 hour, which is like how it should be, if not paid immediately upon arrival. I mean, I don't understand some of these companies that don't pay detention until 2 or 3 hours, or God forbid you work at J&R Shugel, where the detention policy is you'll get detention if we get detention. So you might see detention 3 months later. I mean, at that point, you might as well not get it at all. So Heartland is actually pretty good about that. If you end up having to take a double 10-hour break to do night driving or something, if that's something you're comfortable with, because you can refuse that, then you get an extra 125. It's called double break pay. Um, they've got for loads that are under 100 miles, you get $30. For loads that are under 50 miles, you get an extra 50. For loads, for days where you get less than 200 miles in a 24-hour period, you get an extra $70. And if you're less than 500 over a weekend, you basically get a layover pay. It's 125. Um, Now you do have to remind them about that sometimes. It's not really automatic. Um, but if you're on top of your pay, then it's not an issue for you to like, hey, make sure I get breakdown, make sure I get layover or whatever. Um, I'll tell you, my first week here, I got hit by a Swift truck. I'm still mad about it because I had a really relatively new truck. I had 150,000 on it and miles, and I ended up having to switch trucks because of the amount of damage Swift did, and Swift ended up taking off. In almost 7 years driving, that was the first time I've ever been hit on the road. And I've been hitting parking lots, but never on the road. And the motherfucker took off. Good thing they got a camera. So the camera only looks out the windshield. It does not look at the driver, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't record audio. It might. Don't hold me to that, but I'm not. I don't think it does. Um. So there's that. Um. What else? And they'll take care of you on stuff like that. They took care of me pretty well. I mean, yeah, it's a big company, so sometimes you got to call 5 or 6 different phone numbers to get to the right person. But hell, that's trucking in general. Um, they have a decent amount of drop and hooks, which is always nice for running miles. And if you're doing 48 state over the road, they have really good loads right now. They've got great freight. So I mean, I'm running on average. I'd say the length of my runs are between 7 to 900 miles. So they're pretty decent. I've had a couple 2,000-mile runs, and I've got a 1,200-mile run coming up tomorrow that picks up at like 2 p.m. and has to be delivered by 5 a.m. The day after next. Like 1,200 miles, that's a little bit tight, but it's doable, long as nothing fucking happens. So they got plenty of freight. I wouldn't worry about that too much, unless you're in the Atlanta area. The Atlanta area, they kind of struggle a little bit, but they'll figure out a way to get you out of there, and then they'll just get you running again. Um, I know that the Northwest Regional is having a little bit of a slow time lately, but um, there's minimum pays. So for engineered or dedicated, it's $1,000 a week, which engineered just means it's not a regional account. It's like uh, they're just sending you, like, let's say you probably go down to LA and back. You'll make more than the minimum most weeks. But for regional, I believe it's 1150 For over the road, it's $12.50, and then for each individual teammate in a team, it's $13.50. Um, they have I got paid about almost $400 for orientation, and that goes on your fuel card where you can get it off at a ATM actually. And then after your third load is delivered, about an hour after, you'll get an extra 250 load bonus that goes on your fuel card the same way, and you can take it off at an ATM. And that's your orientation transition pay. Mine ended up being about 650 total. Um, so it's not horrible. It's not the best, but it is what it is. Um, they've got referral bonuses that are pretty sweet. Um, now they're spaced out. Like you get the first, it's $3,000. Obviously, it's taxed at the higher bonus rate of like 30 or 40%, but it is $1,000 after your referee delivers their first load, and then $1,000 after 10,000 miles, and $1,000 after 20,000. So it's going to be over the course of 3 or 4 months that gets paid out. Um, if you come on to Heartland and use my driver code, which will be in the description below, or my truck number, which I will split the referral bonus with you after taxes, but I'll split it. Um, Heartland also does driver training. Um, and as a student in the school, I believe it's like $500 or $600 a week that they pay you while you're getting your CDL. You don't even have it yet. You're in the class, and they're paying you. Which not many companies do that. There's very few. I know of maybe three total, and Heartland is one of them. And then Heartland also owns the other company that I know of that does that. And then there's one that Heartland does not own that I know of that does that. So there's that. Uh, and then you also, as a student, once you get on a truck with a driver trainer, you'll get like you'll get a cent per mile rate then. So you'll make decent money. And as a trainer, I believe your first student is an extra 9 cents per mile for all miles, yours and theirs, and then and that's on top of whatever it is you're getting, because everybody does not get paid the same here. And then your second student is 10 cents. Your third student is 11, and your fourth student is 12, and it maxes out at 12. So thereafter, you'll get an extra 12 cents per mile for every student while they're on the truck with you. And then I believe it's like $120 or $150 bonus once they graduate and get into their own truck. Graduate is in they pass the test after you trained them. Um, they do not do team training, so you're not as a trainer you're not going to be sleeping in the back while your student's driving. That's just not how it works. Um, you'll be in the passenger seat either on or off duty according to whatever rules the safety department puts out about it. Um, and more than likely you'll have to swap with them a couple of times a day anyway, because as a new driver they're only going to have the stamina to do a couple hours at a time without it pushing what is safe right away. um, Heartland has internationals, Kenworths, and Freightliners. As a solo driver, you're gonna want a Freightliner. There's more storage in here. They order them specially with the extra storage, so there's no top bunk. It's just like the storage in the front that wraps around continues to wrap all the way around to the back, and there's a bunch more shelves, which is really nice, believe it or not. Um, and then there's a bunch of underbed storage. My Freightliner, at least, the one that I'm currently in, has a 2,000 watt inverter. I know most are 1500 watts if you have an International or Kenworth, but I'm pretty sure most of the Freightliners come with what's called a pure keys, which is a pure sine wave inverter, which is really good, and they're 2000 watts with a, I want to say, 3500 watt surge capacity, which just means like electronics take extra watts when you're turning them on. It takes extra electricity for like a split second. Um, so um, the Freightliners and a majority of the Internationals have a an idle reduction electronic APU. Um, so the way that that works is you turn on Opti idle on the dash, and it's turned on differently whether you have an International or a Freightliner. But you turn it on the dash, and then you come back in the back and you set your controls in the sleeper for the temperature and everything that you want and the fan speed, and it'll run your electronics, it'll run your air conditioner and everything like just like a regular APU would, except you'll have an extra like plastic box in between your frame rails behind the cab that stores extra batteries, and that's what powers it. And then when those batteries get drained, it will start the truck, run everything. Now the Freightliner and some of the Internationals, not all, but all the Freightliners, have a spot for the fridge behind the driver's seat or behind the passenger seat. Um, the Freightliner also has a spot for your microwave and a TV mount. Um, and if you have an International, you have traditional CB antenna mounts. If you have a Freightliner, it's that one that's built into the roof. Um, but you can always get the little peg that screws into the mirror to mount your own antennas. You know what I mean? Um, the uh, the storage in here is unreal. Now, if you've been driving for long, you'll know what I mean when I say Heartland will give you a brand new mattress anytime you get a new truck. Um, and if it doesn't come with a new one, all you got to do is ask, and they'll give you one that's rolled up in the plastic. But they're not very good. They are the thin, springy prison mattress type mattresses. Um, Now, if you get a like what I did, and I have a really nice, expensive mattress topper, and then I have a pillow topper sheet that's kind of fluffy that goes on over top of that, and it's not, I can't even feel it. But you can always stop at Iowa 80 or one of the Sap Brothers stores, and I prefer Sap Brothers, and they sell a $340 mattress that's very thick and nice and double sided, and you can get that, and it'll fit in here just fine. Um, let's see what else. Um, Heartland is not force dispatch, but if you refuse loads, you'll lose your pay protection, which is the guarantee pay. I mean, 90% of the time you're making more than that anyway. But if you can do the load safely and without it impacting anything like a consistent sleep schedule, then just take the load. Um, as long as you have enough hours to work with it, just do it. Um, Stay in communication. They do not use Blue Beacon as far as I'm aware, but every terminal or most of them have automatic truck washes. You can pull through 16 times in a row and they're not going to give a fuck. You can wash your truck and trailer as many times as you want. However, they don't want you going through bobtail. It's going to throw grease off your fifth wheel everywhere and they don't want that. Um, there are inspection lanes at a bunch of the terminals you can pull through if you want, and they'll go over your truck and trailer to make sure there's nothing wrong. Potentially replace trailer tires, replace electrical cords if you need them, like pigtails and airlines. Replace headlights, stuff like that. 90% of our trucks are not going to have the LED headlights. There are some Freightliners that I see that have them, but most of them don't. And then there are some Kenworths that have them, and those are what are going to be CFI trucks that have been converted to Heartland. So I guess Heartland just kind of went over to CFI and said, "Hey, we're stealing some of your trucks," and they took them and put Heartland stickers on them. Heartland's trucks go 68 on the pedal and on the cruise, which is very nice, and that's about all you'll need, really. You don't really need to go faster than that because you're going to start getting into trouble where you can get tickets. Trust me, I've learned my lesson on that one. Um, let's see what else. If you're talking to recruiters, I prefer Shelly Wimmer out of the Tacoma terminal. She's a very nice lady, and I send all the people I talk to her way. Um, Heartland Express also has the Transflo app, so, but it's branded as the Heartland Express app. It's just like a reskinned version. You can talk to dispatch in there. You can accept loads. Um, but our paperwork scanning is done on the Isaac tablet, which is your ELD. It's a part of your empty call process to take a picture of your bills now. There's no trip sheet needed, so you don't have to handwrite a bunch of shit out. It's real easy. Um, Paychecks are every week, and you'll be able to see those in the app on either Wednesday or Thursday before you're paid. Um, what else? Fuel is assigned, so you do have assigned fuel stops, but it's very easy to kind of work the system to get it to give you the truck stop that you want. There's just a button on your tablet that you hit to recalculate fuel decision, and it'll send you a new one, which is great. That solves a lot of problems where you would normally have to call the fuel desk and argue over shit where you don't have to anymore. Um, what else? I mean, this is just a very relaxed position here. I mean, there's not a whole lot that you have to worry about as a company driver. Um, there's not a whole lot that stresses me out. Um, I would say the worst thing that's happened so far since I've been here is maybe being given some really tight runs or being given a midnight delivery because I hate those. But that's about it, honestly. They have really good runs, solid. Um, and if you're nice to your dispatcher, they're nice back to you, man. And it's sometimes it's a lot easier to be nice over text, and that's real easy to do here because they're not going to call you unless it's mandatory. There's certain loads where you have to do. I can't remember what the word is. ADHD brain, but it's like a verbal dispatch where they have to call you and go over the whole load with you, and then you also have to go and do a pre-planned commit. But that's just because it's like a JIT load, which they won't give you those JIT loads until you've been here for 30 days, um, because they want to see how you're running and everything like that. But it's not it's not that hard. Heartland is a great company. I'm gonna be here for a while. I would have no, I won't say that. But um, I mean, especially if you're an over-the-road driver living in your truck, get you one of these Freightliners, hook your TV up, buy you a fridge. You can get one of the 3-foot tall ones with a separate freezer to stick in here just fine. Get you a microwave that doubles as an air fryer and a convection oven. Mine's 900 watts. It works just fine. Fits a little bit tightly, but it fits. And you can cook burgers. You can cook whatever you want in that. Um, and get you an Xbox or a PlayStation or something. Strap that bitch in. And this is as comfortable of an environment as you're gonna get. Um, the trucks are not high spec, at least not most of them. Some of the ones you'll get that are like the CFI um, trucks that were changed to Heartland, some of those are pretty nice, or at least they look like a nicer spec. But the Heartland trucks are comfortable and they get the job done. You're not going to be uncomfortable. Um, so you're not going to be uncomfortable. It's just not going to look real shiny and pretty and chromy. But who cares? You're making decent money. I've had 2 paychecks in a row where I netted just over 1,700 after taxes. That's crazy. That for a mega carrier, that's great money right there. Um, and if you've got more than 7 years, you'll make more than I do. So, you know, I was just talking to a guy at 9 years, you'd make 60 cent a mile. That's great money, man. Um, get you your hazmat, you get an extra 1 cent per mile. Um, and if you've got the experience, let me stress this, if you have the experience, do not do not try to train new drivers with less than 3 years of driving. You really in my opinion, you need to have at least 5 years to know how to train another driver. Um, but if you have the experience, and you go be a driver trainer, hell, you could easily make high 60s, low 70s while you have a student on the truck. And you can easily put in an actual 14 hours a day of driving between you and your student. Um, and that's what would be called super solo style driving. And that's what I would do if I was a trainer. Um, but yeah, Heartland's a great company, guys. Um, I can't see myself working anywhere else for quite a while. I've got some long-term plans um, that require me to live in the truck for a while, but this is a great place to do that at. If you've got any other questions, or you want to see a truck tour, or you're interested in working for Heartland, give me a like and hit the subscribe button and leave a message down below, and we'll talk. We'll connect. Um, and don't forget, I'll put my driver code and truck number in the description, and even my email. So go ahead and give me a shout, guys. Later.